Hello, my name is Dr. Denise Schwarnowski, and this is this week's A Dose from Dr. Denise, where I hope to teach, show, and inspire you how to release your God-given health and life potential. I'm recording this video midweek, as I'll be posting it this Sunday, because I'm very excited to be traveling back to New Jersey, where Steve and my niece is getting married. Steve's older brother, Raymond, has a beautiful daughter, Tracy. She's marrying Joe. And my sister-in-law, Laurie, was pregnant, very, very pregnant at Steve and my wedding. And it's hard to imagine that this child, this little baby, is getting married. And, you know, that's just literally how fast life goes. And so that's really one of the reasons that I record these videos, is that I want to live an exceptional and inspired life, a happy life, a purposeful life. And I record these videos with a little snippet of knowledge or wisdom that doesn't necessarily come from me, but may come through me. I think that's absolutely what happens. And this week's message is really no different, and it is about football. And I think you're going to enjoy it. You know, I love football. I was a cheerleader all through high school, and both of my brothers played football. My father played football. My sons played football, and it was and still is a big part of our life. I would say when my boys were playing, it was a bigger part of our life. My sons probably started playing in middle school, and they played through high school, and every Saturday when they played football in the fall, it was huge, you know. We built our life around it, going to the games. There was a wonderful sense of community and fellowship with the fellow parents and the coaches. And frankly, you know, my sons played baseball, football. My one son swam. My one son played wrestling for a little bit. But football was the sport that I thought taught them the most they needed to learn about life. The early morning or late evening practices, the hard, intense practices. I mean, these boys work so hard for hours, very physically grueling, demanding times. The sense of teamwork. I was really, really fortunate for several seasons to be able to go and stretch out the football players once a week. Usually in off season, the high school coach back in Hamilton, New Jersey, let me do that. And I'll tell you, I think I got more out of it than the boys, although they did enjoy it too. But it was just a wonderful, I really got inside of a football team to see just how much teamwork is just huge. You know, you have some superstars, but of all sports, I think football is one of these ones that promote teamwork. So, you know, this message is not to absolutely not to bash football, because I love football and I think it is a great facet of certainly of American life, where football in the international world is soccer. In our country, football is huge. And let me tell you, moving down to Texas, if I thought it was huge in the Northeast, well, there's nothing like it down here in the South. We are not too far from Texas A&M, and it is Aggie land around here. I'm getting ready to open a chiropractic practice here, and the woman that came out to help me set up my cable, she's a huge football fan, and her husband is even a huger football fan, and we're trying to schedule a dinner with them, but we have to literally schedule it around football, because his exact words to Steve and I were, "You don't want to be around me during a college football game." So, you know, that's how a lot of people are. So what does this have to do with living an inspired life? Well, I think, you know, I love when metaphors come to me, and a lot of them do. In the Bible, Jesus spoke a lot in parables, and which is a metaphor, because people can get those, they can relate to those. And so I had 3 or 4 things come to me specifically related to football, and I thought, what a great topic to talk on, as it's fall and it's very appropriate. You know, about 2 weeks ago, our pastor at North Point here in Beaumont, Texas, his name is Pastor Freddie Wright. I just think he's an incredible, inspired teacher and pastor. and he was talking about it being football season, and he just simply said there's absolutely nothing wrong with being excited and cheering for, our favorite football team. I just always want that to be number 2, or he probably meant number 5 or 6 in his life, but I always want God to be first. And I thought, that is so true. So that's the first thing that came to me. And then I'm a big podcast listener. There's 2 podcasts that I consistently listen to. So I want to always be filling my mind with good stuff. That's why I watch very little news. I try to stay abreast of it, but honestly, I watch very, very little news at this point, not even Fox or CNN, because I think it's so incredibly biased that, I'll just try to get the headlines. I watch very, very little news, and therefore my podcasts are really important to me because that's where I'll fill my mind. So I'm either reading a ton or I'm listening to really uplifting, educational, inspirational podcasts. So I listen to Oprah Super Soul podcast every week. This week she interviewed Ralph Lauren, a wonderful, wonderful American who's just done great and with his life and with his business. So why wouldn't I listen to that? So inspirational. And then the other podcast that I listen to consistently is Brian Buffini. Now, Brian Buffini, I was turned on to him by a girlfriend, Cassie, from my last church. Brian Buffini is an Irish immigrant, turned realtor, turned real estate mogul, turned inspirational leader and business coach. So he's got this multi-million dollar business where he coaches other businesses. And each week, Brian Buffini has his own podcast. So sometimes when I'm at the gym and I don't feel like listening to music, but I still want to be filling my mind with good things, I will he's got, probably well over 100 podcasts. Since he started that one, I will scroll through and pick a podcast. So I picked one this past week that was an interview that he did with a football player. And both of these podcasts that I refer to, I'll put in the link, because I absolutely do not remember the name of these football players, but he interviewed a football player well over a year ago on his podcast. And this football player, was in the NFL for many, many years, on and off, just not making it, just had kind of one bad luck move after another, whether it was getting cut from a football team or breaking his ankle or losing a scholarship in high school, one that he thought he was going to get. So it was sort of like this defeating message. And then basically towards the end of the interview, Brian Buffini said, well, what turned it around for you? And this particular athlete said, what turned it around for me when I realized that I was being selfish. I talked about this in last week's podcast, versus selfless. And once I started serving other football players, even at that point, driving them to the airport, once I started serving my community and getting involved with people that had much, much higher needs than I did, then all of a sudden his luck changed, and before you know it, he was like this star NFL football player. So that was that was a football message that I received about this incredible athlete. And then this week, Brian Buffini interviewed yet another football player. Again, I'll include it in the comments section here. But it is a football player turned pastor from the West Coast. And his story was very, very inspirational. So I think there's so much good that can come out of sports. And I certainly have seen it in my own life. I loved being a cheerleader. I have such incredible memories from being a cheerleader at my high school, the high school spirit. I loved watching my boys play football. I loved cheering for my brothers. I love listening to my father's football stories. I love the camaraderie that you see when people are tailgating. I love watching football. I mean, there's just so much awesomeness about football. And of course, there's some things that aren't so great about football. But what I did is I thought, well, how can I relate this to how God wants us to live our life? And it came to me really quick. And I wanted to start thinking of cheers that I did when I was in high school. Now, let me just tell you that I won't be standing up. I don't even have pom-poms anymore, so I won't be cheering for you. But there were 3 or 4 cheers that came right to me that I thought, man, isn't that the way we should live our life? So one cheer that came to me right away was the cheer called Be Aggressive. It was Be be aggressive, B-E aggressive, B-E-A-G-G-R-E-S-S-I-V-E. So that's how awesome your brain is, that it stores this. But we do need to be aggressive about our life at times. You know, in Peter, 1 Peter, I think it's 5, 6 and 7, I don't know if I have that right, but it says the adversary, the devil, roams around like a lion seeking whom he may devour. And so devil might be too strong of a word for you, but let me tell you that we do need to be aggressive, you know, and we do need to recognize that there is absolutely evil in the world. As we honored the 9/11 date yesterday, 17 years since 9/11, we all know where we were when that happened. We recognize that evil exists, evil is taught, and we need to be aggressive against it. And so we do need to be aggressive sometimes in our life. We need to be aggressive. Another cheer that we also often did, and I was looking it up this morning, there's a ton of variations of it, but it's either fire up or fire it up. You know, life is awesome. It's awesome, and it's our choice to make it awesome. And sometimes we got to fire on up, you know? We got to light that internal flame and just inflame it ourselves. God gives us all the tools to flame it ourselves. And that is very contingent about regarding our energy level. And so that's why I love promoting health and well-being when it comes to living a God-filled, inspired life, because your health matters and your energy matters. I love being a chiropractor because when I put my hands, just the very fact that I put my hands on someone and can release their energy, and I can educate them and inspire them to live these healthy living principles, also that you can have more energy. My twin brother often says when he speaks to groups that energy equals the capacity to do work. And we are out there to fire on up. What's your message? What's your purpose? And you need energy to do it. So you got to get fired up about life, right? And I love the cheer about defense, you know, always, you know, yes, offense is important, but both of my sons played on defense, and, you know, I will never forget probably one of my most favorite plays ever of my son. Isn't it incredible how we talk about our children? There's my doggie in the background. But Hunter had this play where he was already tackled in the backfield, and our star running back was running to get a touchdown, and there had to have been 5 or 6 of the defense on the other team chasing him down, you know? And so Hunter started sprinting. He must have sprinted, and Hunter, it wasn't the fastest kid, he was a big tall kid, but he had to sprint 40 yards to tackle and trip up some of these defensive players to allow the offense to score this touchdown. So defense is really important, and in fact, you're not going to win at life without a good defense. And so we need that in our life. We need to be defensive about things that will be aggravating to us in terms of lowering our spiritual energy. And so again, I keep talking about the news, but the news will suck the very life out of you, and you have to be defensive about it. There are people out there that will drain you. You have to say no to them. Be kind, but you have to sometimes love people from a distance that are going to drain you and suck the life out of you. So you have to be defensive sometimes. In Ephesians, it talks about putting the armor of God on. And I love that image, that we are to be strong and bold and defensive and aggressive, and we are to fire it up. So it looks like I went over 10 minutes, but I think that all those things are really, really important. I think football's awesome. I just don't think it should be number one in your life. You know, if you want to tell me what your values are, you're going to tell me where you spend your time and your money and your energy. And I will just caution you that if it's all football and it's not in service to others, then maybe you have your priorities just a little bit out of order. So I'll challenge you on that. But otherwise, I say go Eagles, because I'm an Eagles fan, and go to all the teams that are playing today, actually. Peace out. Have an awesome week. Hopefully everybody made out okay in the hurricane. God bless, and I'll see you next Sunday.